What's up, everybody? It's Thursday, so you know what we do. It's the Texas Hemp Party. I'm your host, Leah Laxtons. I'm a native Kentuckian with a passion for hemp. I'm joined by the incredible team at Higher Ed Hemp Tours. We've got Captain Cannabis, always preaching the message on the science of hemp. We've got Alex, a seasoned Texas CBD veteran, industry veteran, who always has amazing input for the retailers and brands out there. And of course, our producer, Cynthia Morales, who keeps us on track and on point. I always feel like you guys should say a word, I don't know, say something during that part. We'll have to work that out.
I think you do a great job.
I guess it's kind of always cool when someone else is bragging on you. Right?
We can work that week. Yeah, we do that next week.
There you go.
Good introduction.
I love it. And we're super, super excited to be joined today by one of our longtime homies in the hemp industry, the one, the only Grace Delgado of the Texas CBD blog. What's going on, Grace?
So nice to have y'all, or so nice for y'all to have me. Thank you so much.
Yes, it is. The team is back together. It's been a while. I think we did probably the 420 special was the last time that we had you live with us, but we certainly have hung out and seen each other in between. And we've got some exciting stuff coming up. You've been working on a lot of cool projects. We've been working on a lot of cool projects. We're working on a cool project together. So we're super stoked to hear all about everything that's going on right now in Texas hemp. So one thing I do want to point out before we get into everything, and Grace, you could probably help me out with this because I really appreciated all the work that you did on the smokable ban, your messaging on Instagram, your blog posts, really walking consumers through how to send their letters in to DSHS, what really defining and boiling down what this whole thing was all about. So last week, we got the news that the temporary injunction was granted against DSHS, meaning that retailers will be able to sell and manufacturers will be able to manufacture smokable hemp until the two sides go back to court. February 2nd is the rumored date on that. But then some news came down this week from both Texas Cannabis Collective and from Zach over at the Texas Hemp Growers, that DSHS actually went back and filed an appeal to block the injunction.
Yeah.
And so that was crazy, and I think racked everybody's nerves for a little bit. And then yesterday it appears that an emergency motion then had to be filed by the attorneys in the case, and that appears to have been granted yesterday, clearing the way for the injunction to last until February 2nd. Did I miss anything in that or any other insights into that you know about?
Not that I know about. You pretty much hit everything on the head right there. Because I know when I learned about that scared me for a second. But thankfully, I feel like it happened. It was like literally a flash in the pan. So I was like, I'm not going to concern consumers or anyone about this information, because it was definitely caught me off guard, and that would just cause confusion, and then I would just rather not have that.
It really happened overnight too. Came out of nowhere. It was like, oop.
It was like, we might be screwed, never mind. And then, so.
Yeah, when I saw it though, my heart definitely skipped a beat. I was like, oh God, we're gonna do this all over again. No.
Here we go.
Me too, because it's kind of one of those things. I've never really followed a case like this in Texas. Of course, I've followed Supreme Court, more federal level things. But it's been interesting to follow the way that it's went through the court system here in Texas. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really have a great basis to know what was going to happen next, since it's kind of my first rodeo, with following a lawsuit of this nature here in Texas. So it's been fun. The reason why is that it worked out for Team Smokable Hemp. Probably wouldn't have been as fun on the other side. But I think it's big news. I think it's really important, not only for our state, but across the board, because I think a lot of people were afraid that this was going to set a domino precedent that could fall across in other states.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
for Illinois, and they have their smokable ban too. So if anything, right now we're serving as an example of what it takes from a ground effort to really like push something from our level, but also just getting the community excited and following and supporting these people. Like whether it happened or not, I feel like the fact that we know who the attorneys are involved, we know who the players are. And I know when I was covering it, I was a little nervous to talk about who was exactly the one suing the state of Texas. I knew I felt like the attorneys was safe to talk about. The companies themselves, I felt like I didn't want to give them press because I want to, let them handle that on their own because there's too much pressure as it is. So that's the reason I didn't blast that information. But yeah, I think like in the future, it's going to be setting a good precedent of like how to fight this and really moving forward, especially if we're going to go towards legalization and like what it looks like to free the whole entire plant. But right now I'm just happy with like at least getting people's attention. So, but yeah, I think one of the coolest things that I found out through talking to different people through the smokable hemp ban is talking to how Amos from MJ's. Like I thought it was interesting how he told me when I talked to him for the Ministry of Hemp, because I interviewed them and I had an article go through there. How his consumers were contacting him like, hey, do you know about the smokable ban? Like, and then he was like, well, of course I do. I've been following it. And then I just thought when he told me that, how cool it was the fact that you have your audience's attention here. So the fact that more brands are posting it, that means you have more engagement and you have more attention by, the people who are listening to you with your messaging. Also for not only just because it's a political subject, but also now just for your branding, who has whose eyes you have for, X amount of reasons. So I thought that was really cool. And again, if we're going to, as this continues to roll, all that information is just going to become more powerful. Just getting everything to pass in general. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that it really engaged consumers here in Texas. I mean, we had an overwhelming number of letters written to DSHS. And I think a lot of people didn't really understand the legislative process as well. I mean, it's a confusing process here in Texas since we meet every 2 years instead of every year. And I just think maybe people weren't as engaged as they could have been the last time around. This really engaged the consumers in a major way. And a lot of that was thanks to all of the brands, like you said, that not only were a part of this case, but also we're putting it out and blasting it on social media from day one to get that support. So it's done a lot of good here. And, it's awesome that the attorneys came out on top. And man, we have a great group of cannabis attorneys here in the state of Texas. Like,
they're awesome.
For real. We're just really blessed. These guys are players on a national level. And to think they're here in Dallas, Houston, and Austin is really awesome. Yeah. It is interesting. You're bringing up the Illinois smokable hemp ban, and that is really a confusing one now that Illinois has, adult use. MJ, because here we can kind of understand and follow, okay, law enforcement, it's confusing to them, blah, blah, blah. We're not really, you can appreciate it from their standpoint. But on that front, it's kind of an interesting one because it's like, okay, what's kind of the deal going on there behind that?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I've tried to follow it, but I have not been able to untangle it. I've talked to people from Illinois, and it's just, because you're right, like they have adult use, they have it legalized recreationally, but you don't have it on the CBD side. So it really makes me want to like go into when they're normal meetings and just like kind of sit in their public normal ones and just like, can we talk about this? Because I'm so confused. Yeah. Just so I can, I'm not here to help, but I'm just here to like bridge the knowledge gap just in case somebody on Texas side tries to throw those same arguments at me. Because it's like, it just doesn't make sense.
No, for sure.
Absolutely. I think that's what's so unique about this plant and this industry is that everything is so regionalized and different. Cynthia and I are recording for this event called the Green Plant Summit that's going to be coming up, I think, in November. And I recorded yesterday. It was all about traveling with CBD. And so it really was getting into a lot of intricacies about, if you're going to Idaho, there's 0% THC allowed. They do allow hemp now, which is a big step for Idaho, right? From where we came 2 years ago. but you better be in there with isolate and broad spectrum, and just kind of following. It started to normalize, but then the smokable hemp became like this whole other level of now certain consumption methods. Obviously, edibles are another one of those that state to state are very different.
Yeah.
So always a wild ride for a consumer, I think. If it's hard for us, then
My biggest question that I would want to ask these, well, especially like dishes and different states that they're dealing with this sort of thing, is that first of all, I want them to acknowledge that America wanted this hemp to be legalized. Now it is, and we see the medicinal properties of this. And I know that this is hard for you guys to understand if they're watching, but this is a question I'm sure a lot of people watching would like to ask them: is what does it matter if someone gets a buzz off of a chamomile tea, or they get buzz off of sugar? The worst drug on the planet right now is sugar, and that kills more people on this planet than any other drug. But if you get a buzz off of sugar, you're crazy. But this one gives you a creative buzz. And so who cares if someone smokes the plant for health? Why are you guys making a big deal of it? We just got this legalized. So can't you just smooth this out, guys? And let's just write this out and do the right thing for humanity. So anyways, but I'm saying if there's a peaceful way that we can bring this up to dishes, I'm saying everyone that's listening, all of us, this is what we do, is let's do this in a smooth way and do some really quick reasoning. It's like, well, you don't care about an alcohol buzz, much more dangerous. This is a different type of creative buzz, not dangerous whatsoever. And this is hemp, so you're not even get a buzz. Most people won't even get a buzz, but if you did, who cares? You get a chamomile buzz when you're drinking the tea. So it's like, if we start reasoning with these people and help them to reach their hearts and help them to understand that this is totally normal. Oh, sorry, normal. Then, you know what I'm saying? This is all normal.
We were just talking about this right before we went on live. We were talking about how they were doing the drug testing back in employment. And then I'm just thinking, why does that even matter if you were to come up positive with THC in your system? I mean, obviously that takes 30 days, to come out.
You're in Amsterdam or skiing,
right?
It's like they
and
can't.
It's very different if you're under an influence at the moment. Why are you there? Or 2 weeks ago when you went on your vacation to a legal state,
Yeah, that's what
Don't
we were
drug
talking.
Test me, guys.
Yeah, we were talking about the public comments. There's a ton of public comments that are due on cannabis subjects. 3 of them very positive: FDA, USDA, and DEA. All good things that they basically want. But then the Substance Abuse Administration, SAMHSA, apparently, who I did not know existed, but apparently our tax dollars fund this federal organization. They want comments back by November 6th on they're pushing for hair follicle testing for federal employees, and they want that to trickle into privatized sector. And this is in response to the growing number of private companies who are refusing to test for cannabis in legal states. Michigan being one of the largest states where they're no longer have mandatory cannabis testing, so employers can choose whether they want to do that or not. Many are choosing not to test. So now SAMHSA apparently didn't like that, and they're coming back with like, oh, not only should you test for cannabis, but you need to be doing hair follicle testing. So we go 3 steps forward, we go 1 step back. But again, there's a chance for us as part of the process as citizens to put our comments in on these subjects. So we encourage everyone to put comments in, especially as a citizen. Your comments matter just as much as if you're in the industry, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. Sorry.
I was gonna say, what I'd like to see though is somebody from a state that tests them, even a hair follicle or any of it. If they test someone, then they fire them. First I want them to go on vacation to Amsterdam or go to Colorado, because the law is that if you break the law in that state, well, if you're in another state and it's legal, you're not breaking the law, but this stays in your system for 3 weeks. So you come back and then you get fired. Well, as soon as you get fired, now you have damages. I would like to see this go into a court case that goes to the Supreme Court. And then because it's so simple. It's like, how could you ever have any of these tests in this country if it's legal anywhere on the planet. You know what I'm saying? Because if you go there and it's legal, you didn't hurt anyone. You come here, you didn't break the law here. Well, then that's ridiculous. So I'd love to see this court case. That one, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know, like the more we describe and talk about it, the more I think about how, like, you know how it's like hand sanitizer kills like 99.9% of germs, while the remaining bacteria could create like a super bug. Well, this is only just creating a next level of super drugs. Like, if we're really talking about substance abuse, aren't we now leading people into a darker path in order to relax based off of like cultural norms and how people are handling stress as we, you know, expand into digital age? Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense. Like, why not just take a step back? You're not only just grounding yourself by taking that step back and connecting to nature, but then you're again, I think, as Daniel always talks about, like, you're able to more holistically approach problems instead of inventing all these other complicated systems. And why make it the world more complicated than you need to have? Like, I understand, like, when you have to advance and have to have technical systems, etc. I get that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to solve simple, like, you know, big problems, sometimes it is a simple solution. And by convoluting like cannabis law and like not getting these people who actually do need the medicine to them to de-stress, you're just creating like a bigger something bigger. Like, for example, drug testing. Like, I think there's a time and a place for it, but not every time. And I think society has like put a blanket on us to think like, oh, this is the standards in order to like streamline how we should be working and what the expectation is. When in reality, because we have the internet, we all know that's an unrealistic expectation that's always been there, but it's now exposed. So it's almost like, just like people live their lives. So, and I think this is a really good example of how like cannabis is untangling those norms. So
yeah, I think that's a great point that, you know, cannabis has been on the leading edge of this sort of libertarian fight going on across the country, in that states' rights becoming such a integral part of this legalization process. And, you know, it's interesting because it's dipping into sort of liberal ideas meshed up with these libertarian concepts that traditionally have been more on the conservative side. And you sort of have this whole other, you know, category group splitting out, I think, as much as we still only have a two-party system forever here, probably in the United States. You can really see that there's this third ideology that takes from both sides. And cannabis is such a huge example of seeing this kind of bridge growing between people on both sides of the aisle, I think.
Yeah, I think we're in an age where like the old way of doing things is kind of dying. I do think there's systems and like there's a time and a place for everything. I'm not at all saying that there is not. And for big ideals, like even capitalism, for example, like, but I do feel like this is a tremendous example of how like the world is shifting into a different age, and we can't fight it. The more you try to fight it, the more you're kind of wasting people's time, because one, people aren't getting the help that they need, for one, and then two, you're just like throwing progression back. And like, even if you're going to put even more conservative ideals on cannabis, you're still more progressive than you were if you kept the old way of thinking. So it's like literally holding back like just the next hump, and really what 2020 has been. However you decide to look at it, regardless, it's been a shakeup, even like on how you advertise, and especially in cannabis too. Like, because I followed how it was in 2017 and 18 to now, completely different.
I was gonna say, marketing these days is 360 from what it was 1 year ago.
Yeah, and like marketing is like the lead catalyst for culture change. And because, like, you know, the 70s and 50s, like 50s and 70s are beautiful examples of what that looks like. And right now we're in like, especially more of like a segment, you're able to segment better and able to get your message to the right people who need it, and you can scale however that looks, and then you're compromising on how that is, but that's totally up to the companies. But like, there's a lot of people who have mission-driven companies who just want to help, and their profits just want to like go to different things that are bigger than them. And right now it's like, again, you're stopping that progressiveness of like these things to, just create a different world. And that just really frustrates me at the bottom line of everything whenever I look at, like how cannabis and like the digital world we're literally changing it. It's just like,
I was thinking about substance abuse. You mentioned substance abuse, and that really is probably the heart of the matter, because remember, the war on drugs was created back in the 80s, And I mean, this whole concept of, oh, this is abuse, you're abusing that plant, leave it alone right now. But the thing is it's not, and I mean, a lot of people would argue that there's no such thing as substance abuse. There's an addictive personality, but that's a psychological situation, which means that we could help that person as long as they don't harm someone else's property. So all the laws are based upon not damaging other people's property, showing fairness. You know, if you hurt someone, you're damaging them. That's their property themselves. But the point is there's so many people that it can enjoy sugar without damaging somebody or hurting or, you know, break, you know, but that's still substance abuse. So this whole idea is kind of a brainwashing in my eyes from the 80s, that there's an idea of the substance abuse, because if you want to talk about abusive, look at every prescription that's written, or if you watch commercials during the show you're watching, that's abuse right there, that they're trying to say, no, do you have this problem? Well, you need to buy these drugs, go to your doctor. And then you're just the child, doctor, may I please buy this drug? So it's like, that's not freedom. I think that we need to go back and say, if I choose to use a substance, that's my right as a human being on the planet Earth, as long as I don't harm someone else's property during the process. But anyways, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you look at it with alcohol and you can really see such huge hypocrisy, right? Because it's like, here's something, a substance that we know hurts people, we know is linked to, you know, deaths in multiple segments across the you know, the spectrum, even here in the United States. And yet, right, auto, you know, driving, just liver failure, abuse inside the household, all of these things linked to alcohol. And yet, what do we see? Even we talk about this is funny on NFL Sunday, all the commercials are like alcohol and Doritos. And you're like, you're watching something athletic that's supposed to be encouraging you to work out. But no, they're like, don't work out, sit at home and drink beer and eat tortilla chips and just watch other people work out and you'll feel just as good, you know? And it's like, oh, I mean, I guess so. But, you know, even I saw Snoop Dogg was on the Corona commercial, and which was cool because, you know, Corona is like light and everything, but also was like, you know, he'd way rather be on a cannabis commercial during the NFL Sunday, but he can't be. So I feel like it was like a wink, like, yeah, and I'm enjoying this Corona strain, you know, like that's not really what he wanted to advertise. It's not what he's doing right now, but that's legal. And yet it's not legal for him to go on with a cannabis commercial. So pretty crazy.
Is that the alcohol, for the most part, people are not doing something stupid with alcohol. There are some bad players, and then we have laws against that, but it's not the alcohol that is the problem. The problem is the psychology behind that individual person. So why go after the products? Why not we say all products are legal on the planet and we get to decide? We don't have to ask a doctor. Now, granted, if you're smart, you're going to talk to a doctor, so that way.
And here's the thing too, like things have changed. You know, one of the things about COVID is that there's now in Texas, you can take alcohol, you know, and order it and carry it and take it with you, when before it was not allowed, you know. And yet has it really affected how much, you know, how many more drunk drivers there are, like how many more, you know, it really hasn't. And as a matter of fact, it's probably helped the economy and driven up, you know, helped all of these places that can now, you know, provide their product outside. And so coming, you know, being here in Colorado right now, where it's both legal alcohol and recreational adult use, I'm not seeing crazy people running around racing amok, you know. Like this is like the most chill place. There is nobody. It's just insane to think of how bad it just has been stigmatized, you know. And once the culture starts getting around with it, like now I see signs for it everywhere, you know. In Texas, I was so amazed when there's that giant medical one now on I-35.
Yeah, right by the stadium.
Yes, wow. Right by the stadium. So I was like, you know what? Yes, you're coming in, you're flying, you're gonna see the stadium and see this giant Texas medical sign. And you know, even me, like I got taken aback by it. I was like, oh my God, they've actually put it. Like who did this? They let them advertise.
We have a few in San Antonio too, and I was like,
Yeah, but once it just starts becoming a part of how it should be, nature, normal, then yeah, it really does change the stigma around it. And then not only that, we want to get quality products too. Keeping it in the black market really doesn't
help much. No,
does not help much. So yeah.
You've joined the growing number of Texans who have done the Colorado vacation. I've heard that Texans are taking over all of the rural areas of Colorado this year since it started. So tell us your experience so far as have you visited, obviously just for business purposes and educational reasons, some adult use dispensaries up there?
Yeah, so it's been, I mean, not many. I've been kind of off the grid since Friday. Just camping, and of course,
your
Colorado.
birthday. Happy birthday, Cynthia.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, it was on Monday. I know, 37 years wiser or non-wiser. I don't know which one to say, but yes, it was fun. I mean, we've been in the middle of nowhere. We've just been camping out, visiting a bunch of national parks here, and really you're being isolated from everyone, but it's been cool, just taking pictures. Hopefully I'll share some of those later on. But we did, the minute we crossed into Texas, I was like, dispensary, stop. That's going to be our first stop right now. And I'm kind of glad we did that, because then we really did go off the grid and didn't have anything. We almost were scared of running out of gas. We didn't quite think some things through. That's okay. That's all right. We made it out and everything, and yeah, it's been just fun. Everybody the campsites are spread out. There are very few people out. I guess this is between seasons too, the summer season and the winter season. So
and
it's
school's
really
back
nice.
in, so probably a few less, no families really traveling as much right now.
No, we have not seen anybody like that. And so a lot of people in buses, a lot of people in little wheelies. So I think that's going to be I don't know, we're sold. We might just buy one.
We're all going on the road.
We're all going on the road.
But apparently, as Daniel and I have learned, so has everyone else in the United States had this idea, because we've been on the Sprinter van wait list for a while now, and
Oh yeah, and I see it. The Sprinter vans are everywhere.
Yeah,
I think this was also like Colorado has been doing this forever, but I definitely see more out of state license plates for sure. So yeah, I did go to a dispensary, and then I ended up just kind of walking around the town here. I'm in Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
Oh, you're in Steamboat.
Up on the top. Yeah.
They have the huge concert there every year. The country concert.
Well, yeah, it's right outside. Yes, what is it called? Oh my God, this is gonna kill me.
All I know is it's called Steamboat Springs.
Yes, but it'll come to me right now. But yeah, no, it's been great. It's a ski town, so not a lot of people now. It's not snowing, which is great. So go outside. I mean, it's hot here. It is hot, so it's nice. It's not super cold yet and not freezing. So
wearing a hat.
Yeah,
it's really cool too.
I'm loving the hat.
This hat was in our. Oh no! Did I freeze?
Yeah, we can still hear you though.
I think I might freeze soon. Okay. Yeah, the hat is part of the decor from our stay house, but I think it went with my outfit today, so
it does.
I tried it on.
You gotta love having a house that comes with a hat that matches your outfit and the decor. So you look like you're ready to go out for some safari, a cannabis safari. Pretty much.
I know. I will be doing my own tour.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm supporting the hat now.
I think that there's we have fairly educated cannabis consumers here in the state of Texas, and the reason why is because we are surrounded now. Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado, of course, forever. even Louisiana loosening up with some medical. So it's pretty interesting to see how I think consumers here are so thirsty for the experience. And that's why our shops do really well, particularly the ones that sort of recreate that dispensary experience. What do you think about that, Grace? When you go to other states, like, do you think our consumers, how would you rate, I guess, our consumers versus some of the other states that you've been to that have legal?
Well, that's actually a really interesting question. So I was in Colorado over the Christmas break, and when I stopped, actually in South Park, where to a dispensary there, people were going in, and I was listening to like what they were talking about, but they were wanting more of like ratios and like hemp and cannabis. Like out of the 10 people who were there, as I was, ordering and picking stuff out, they were mostly wanting like like a hybrid version, like a ratio of like 1 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in comparison to consumers, like when it comes to recreational and wellness, again, I think it's all, my philosophy on it. Like it's one all medicine and that's how you define it. But then like how you talk about like rec and wellness. And I think people are starting to understand what that means. And like, I really think Texas has amazing consumers who are just kind of like definitely thirsty and wanting to know more and put their hands on different products just to find out what works best for them. At the end of the day, that's what everybody's looking for. Like they're branding, all the business stuff, it goes to the wayside when you want just a product that works for you. But yeah, that's what I'm definitely seeing, and just figuring out like it even through like legal states. So I don't know, I just think that's really cool. So
you
Yeah,
say medicine. Sorry, honey. Well, you say medicine, and it's true. I get that little sensation of like, oh, what if someone thinks, oh, medicine, because I have to go to my doctor. No, you don't. I mean, a lot of us go and we read the bottle and it says take 1 aspirin if you're 90 pounds, if you're 130, take 2 or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And cough drops, it's like, well, I think I like this cough drop. It has a little bit more of the active or medicine ingredient. So, I mean, I think we're adults enough to be able to choose certain things when we're working out, for drinking protein shakes, we do our research. And isn't that what you're starting to see more of too, Grace? That most people do their research and they know what they're doing?
Yeah, like it's almost like you trust people to, just like you trust people to drink responsibly. People are consuming and smoking responsibly too. So it's just like, again, it's putting that burden, it's almost like the cannabis industry in the world, like America, the United States just needs to kind of like just get their priorities in straight, because it's almost like we're not trusting the consumer, and they're like, yeah, they're concerned about like an epidemic and like just like all these other situations that we've been in with like super drugs and etc. But we don't have any evidence of that happening. But yet there is ways to kind of couch and catch people who do substance abuse. And just as Daniel said, like that's a personality trait more than likely. And we can easily, through education and putting that onus on the brand and that onus through education, through however that looks, you can trust consumers to consume responsibly, like we can have a cocktail conference, you can have a bud tender conference and still have the same parameters. Like, just if you give a joint to your child, a 3-year-old child to smoke, now that's different than, giving them CBD because they are having a seizure. Like there's, of course,
but it is worse if you give it to someone else's child. I'm just teasing them.
Those are cases that like I think that we're trying to figure out, but it's almost like people put too much responsibility on themselves and then also on other people too, and not just looking at like, how can I deal with this right now, and how can I make the best product, and how can I talk about this the most effective way to impact the most change, because right now that is what we should all be here for, and not really to kind of like we should be tearing down stigmas, not tearing down each other. So I think that's just like where we should all be right now as like a community. So,
and let us not forget that the U.S. government owns the patent on CBD and THC as compounds.
And we Americans own the government, so we all own it then.
Right? And, they're already pushing out their own product of their brand of CBD, which is Epidiolex, and their form of synthetic THC, which is Marinol. Actually I've seen it first-handedly. It's been prescribed to my husband for his injuries. He was severely injured in Afghanistan, and one of the doctors said, hey, try this, and it was Marinol, and it was prescribed through the military system, and he got the synthetic THC caplets. But I mean, who knows what's even in them. He was not fond of them. So it was just something that a doctor tried to push on him at one point in time, and that was just like a big eye opener, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure. And to think that the same VA, is telling vets not to take even isolate CBD products, which is sort of the battle right now. So it's very interesting, to say the least. So always a lot of interesting things on that front between the FDA, the DEA, the USDA, the SAMHSA, that everybody wants to have their hands in the cannabis pile here.
And in their hands into trying to push what they feel emotionally inside them individually onto the whole American people's freedoms.
Yeah, and it is about funding and budgets as well, because whoever gets to control cannabis at a federal level when it is legalized will have a larger budget. So both the DEA and the FDA want that budget.
And they're going to have a larger workload. So I would be pushing that budget to some other division of the government if I was in that. I mean, I would accept and do my duty, but what the hell? Why do they want this?
They both want it bad, It's kind of like, I don't know, like divorced parents fighting over
the custody
right now. Like, no, we want cannabis. Like, like the kid that they never even played with, and then they get the divorce, and they're like,
no, they abused, mentally abused.
Yeah,
right? They
threw
him in the corner for more than 6 hours. They put him in the corner for 12 years. I don't know how long do people sit in prison for?
We've been in the corner since 1946, right? And now they're like, no, we love you. No, we love you.
See, the psychology even behind that is insanity, because you would never put a child in the corner for more than 6 hours, because that's not corrective. That's corrective training. That's actually called abuse. And yet our human race is still putting people in prison for these kind of lengths of time because you're not doing what I want you to do. As long as you didn't hurt someone, you know what I'm saying? It's just
one of the most
one
of the most shocking things we always discuss is that here in adult use states, you have people still in jail in Colorado for cannabis, which is completely absurd and mind-blowing. So, thank goodness for the Last Prisoner Project and the work of a lot of advocates that these people are starting to get out. But it's something that we can never forget as being a part of the industry, that this is really the most important part. Before we get to anything, the profits, it's got to be the people first too. Of course, it does take profits to fund those efforts. So it is a balance.
Time to let those prisoners out, because, if you just released all the prisoners that were, caught smoking a joint, then, that'd just totally destroy the whole prison economy system, or what do you call it? The prison, the money
the prison industrial complex, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got Cynthia back, so let's do the Spanish
word of
the week. Let's see what we're gonna learn this week. I got scared because I thought I was gonna have to do it, and I was gonna be like, oh, duh.
Oh, you're excelente.
Oh, this is gonna be
muy
bonita.
Oh no!
It is your turn, Leah. Go for it.
We've got your audio, I think. So, how do you say dispensary? First, we should say in English, because I almost said
dispensary. Yes,
dispensario.
Uh-oh. Oh no. Why, Colorado? Why?
Dispensario.
I'm pretty sure that's pretty on point.
The internet here is not as
right.
Dispensario.
That's what I said.
Dispensario.
There you go. You did it.
Well, you have to put a little D sound on the R.
Abierto.
Abierto is open. I'm
Oh,
guessing.
that means open. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
good. Yeah, so I thought those two are good together, especially, if you're traveling, it could be vice versa. You're a Spanish speaker, you need to learn it in English. Dispensary and dispensario. So very similar. I think this is an easy one for y'all.
I like
Yeah.
that.
This fits
Yeah.
right. This fits right in Captain Cannabis's whole Spanish philosophy. He just takes all the English words and says them with the accent.
With an E, I'm like an I-O on
and
the
then
end.
he's right like 40% of the time. So he thinks
Dispensario.
Spanish.
Sí,
Dispensario.
Monday?
dispensario.
Monday?
¿Cómo se dice?
¿Cómo se
¿Cómo es?
dice dispensario?
Dispensary.
Se dice en inglés dispensary.
Ay, muy bien, muy bien.
Fantastic, gracias.
Sí,
Good job.
quiero visitar muchos dispensarios en Colorado.
Ooh, yes.
I want to visit many dispensaries.
Oh.
Research purpose, I want to see how it is.
You know what? It's so neat about Texas, though, because when you go to Colorado and you see these beautiful dispensaries, you do the same thing in California, but in Las Vegas. Well, Las Vegas has got a little Texan-like, but here in Texas, we don't have dispensaries. We have what do you call it? Culture experiences. From the restaurants to the stores, different types of shops. So it's really incredible.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have a few that are sort of recreate the dispensary experience, but in general, yeah, we have a lot of more what feels like, mom and pop, like a supplement shop or something like that versus that full, kind of medical experience, which can be a little intimidating, I think, when everything's behind the glass and you don't know what you want and you're freaking out, but
There's a lot of numbers thrown at you.
They're very knowledgeable for sure. That's been one of my experiences here. I feel that the more it's open and talked about, the more training people are doing. There's a lot more online courses to become bud tenders and more regulations. So it's interesting to, just chat and ask them anything really. They want to tell you everything.
It's really cool.
It's fun.
That is cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're gonna wind down here because Cynthia's got another event, and actually I have another event as well. Want to invite you to the Bootleg Avocado Lone Star State of Hemp. That's going to be a free webinar right after this. You can, it's at 3 p.m. Central Time. You can go to bootlegavocado.com on the homepage and sign up, register, get the Zoom link. And it's going to be myself, Mario from Bootleg Avocado. They're a culinary consulting firm. So they consult in the food and beverage restaurant industry. And he started to do a series on cannabis last year and then has continued these online. So really excited to be a part of this. He's a really incredible dude. And I think it's so cool that he decided to focus on Texas. Out of all the people that he could have chosen across the board, he was really fascinated by what we're doing here in Texas. Nice. So we have Shada from Restart, Amos, who we were talking about earlier from MJ's, and Ted from
All-Star. It's an all-star team.
Yeah.
And that's coming up when, Leah? When is it coming up?
It's going to be today in just about an hour and 15 minutes. So if you're listening on the podcast, you can probably find it on playback. But if you're watching us live on YouTube right now, you can go sign up and view this here in a few minutes. Thursday, September 24th, 3 p.m. Central. And this lineup was so great that our friends over at Farm Labs and Greenlight Events actually are going to do a follow-up event tomorrow on the Farm Lab Forum. It is version 4 of the Farm Lab Forum. I can't believe it. Already number 4. They've been doing a really great job on this. Mm-hmm. So the forum tomorrow is featuring, of course, Greg from Farm Labs and Andrew. But then we've got Shada, Amos, and myself. So we're kind of doing the back-to-back panels here, which is going to be really fun. I've been on panels with these two before, and we always have a blast. So I'm excited about this. And today we're going to be really talking about an overview of Texas hemp in general. Tomorrow it's going to be more focused on what's happening on the dishes, on the retail manufacturing side of hemp here in the state of Texas. We're going to talk about how many estimated retailers and brands we think there are in the state of Texas, what the revenue looks like, what the consumer base looks like. So especially if you're in the industry, a lot of really good information on that side. And then go make sure that you follow Grace on Instagram, because we're going to be doing a pretty cool event that, Grace, you came up with this idea, and I thought it was like the best idea I'd ever heard for an event. Do you want to talk about the Puff Pass paddle a little bit?
Yeah, so it's called Puff Puff Paddle. And well, it's now, if you go on Eventbrite, it's called Sup Hemp. And essentially what we're doing is we're going to be on the water, and we're going to be mingling with the cannabis community in a safe social distancing for the most part on paddling, but just kind of like just chilling on the water, enjoying downtown Austin and Town Lake, and just consuming cannabis. So the two people, of course, that'll definitely be there is, of course, Higher Ed Hemp Tours, which I'm super excited to partner with them. This is actually my first event, so I'm super nervous and excited. And then Shop Mary J is actually going to be our second sponsor.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a possibility of a third person who might have a bowl on their cans of energy drinks that might be a partner, big corporate involved. But we'll find out when that happens if they sub the group. So I'm not going to say at all who that person could be. But
I wonder what company it could be.
I know, it's super vague. So
that'd be a really cool partnership to see. I think already whether or not they come in is perfect, that they're aware of it, that this is happening, and willing to support hemp here in the state of Texas. So
yeah, that would be super.
What's really cool too is like the company. So people will be able to rent boards through the event, and we're partnering with a company called Ruckify. They're based out of Canada, but they have some stuff in here, and they've actually done a lot of. The people who I'm working with have relationships with other hemp brands in Canada and across the United States as well. So they're totally on board, and I'm just anybody who, even if a company is not directly tied to cannabis, if you support cannabis, I want to make sure that they get support from the cannabis community, especially if it's outdoorsy. And we're in Texas, and I want to see people on board smoking. I want to see all the Texas.
Yes, I love it.
Combined with cannabis out there. Of course, we're just, all we're doing is peacefully being out and chilling out, and just show people an example of what it is, of what it looks like of cannabis in Texas, and just kind of spreading that vibe across the United States. That's just all I care about. Hey, we're responsible adults. This is what that looks like. This is what responsibility looks like. It's okay. Let's normalize this, and let's just keep making cool events happen. So
yeah,
for sure.
So you can go
especially
check
if you're outdoors.
You can check out.
Oh,
Grace.
you're back, Cynthia.
Yeah, she popped in just in time. She's like, paddleboarding and cannabis? Oh, my internet has seen that.
Me.
I love it.
More.
Well, we're super stoked for the event, and that's going to be, is it October 2nd is the date on that?
2nd, yeah, Friday evening. So.
Friday, October 2nd. We're extremely excited to be a co-sponsor on that event with Mary J. And you can go over to Eventbrite or the Texas CBD blog on Instagram and click Linktree, go to the event, sign up. It's going to be a blast. So we'll be putting out some info over the next coming days as well on our social media to get the word out. Yeah. So amazing, guys. We covered a lot of subjects. It's always fun here in the Texas Hemp Party. It's exciting. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube to join us every week, 1 to 2 p.m. Central Time. We are booked with guests through December right now, I think. Or
are we bringing Marcus Prime back for some music?
We're working on that. Yeah, we actually have an event that's going to be consumer industry that we don't want to drop the news on yet, but Marcus Prime is going to be a big part of that event.
Halloween's coming up.
It might revolve around Halloween. It is going to be
October.
A virtual event. It is going to be a virtual event. It's not going to be in person, unfortunately, yet, but we're pretty excited about it. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, Alex has been getting all kinds of cool guests for us. So it's been awesome, exciting. Guys, thanks for joining us. It's a Texas Hemp Party. We're going to see you next week.
Bye.
See y'all.
Bye.
And a good time.